Just Bobby Deskins in Tampa, Florida. That is Ross Mumma, WTLV meteorologist in Jacksonville, Florida. Good to see you again, Ross. Been a week for us here.
Hey, good evening to you as well, Bobby. Yeah, it has been. Waves continuing to crease out there along our shoreline, or perhaps coastline. I know a lot of folks down here in the south don't use the term shore. But yeah, it's been an interesting week, and could be one of the longest duration with regards to excessive and larger waves for the entire eastern seaboard than folks have seen here in quite a while. So let's get into it.
That means more erosion. You're absolutely right. And it started in central Florida, just West Palm northward. I mean, the Bahamas blocked some of it, but it's going all the way up to New York. Long Island will see it. Martha's Vineyard will have some swell up there as well, too. Hey, Ross, we just got the 8 p.m. numbers in from the National Hurricane Center, so let's take a look at Hurricane Erin right now, and you can see winds are about the same as it was, 105-mile-per-hour wind, still a Cat 2, moving to the north-northwest at 10. That's good. It's more north than west. That's what we want. And pressure has come up, I think, 1 millibar, 959. I think it was 958 at 5 p.m. So it weakened just a touch.
Yep.
They're basically saying it's going to stay where it is for 105, 110 mile per hour winds for really the duration, at least for the next 24 to 48 hours when it's passing by the Carolinas. So there's the latest track that you can see right there, and they have it about 110 mile per hour winds tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, Thursday afternoon, and then kind of moving out to the north and the east. But the highest winds, all of those numbers that you're seeing there, the 110, that's out here near the center, all right? That's not over here on the coast. In fact, that blue right there is a tropical storm warning, which means winds probably 40s and 50s with some higher gusts, okay? So that's the good news. Hey, what they did do at 5 o'clock today was they actually issued a tropical storm watch for Bermuda. They could get a couple winds on this coming out on the backside, but I don't think it's going to be a huge deal for them. But they will get some rain. They're going to be on the dirty side of this storm. More rain, a little bit more wind than anything else. But there's the forecast track. You can see it takes out as we go. Ross, the forecast models really starting to agree with each other here now.
Yeah, they're not deviating nearly as much as they were, certainly at this time last week and even over the weekend. So, yeah, pretty much locked into where Erin is going to go here. I think it is interesting that they've at least put out that tropical storm watch for Bermuda, and also the watches for Virginia Beach all the way up to Ocean City, Maryland as well. Could see winds, closer to about 30, 35 miles per hour. But, as we mentioned at the top of the show, still the surf and the rip current concerns are going to extend well farther northward, from Florida up across the Carolinas. And even some of the videos, I'm sure you've seen some of them that have already come out from portions of the Outer Banks, seeing some, minor washouts with some of those roadways very, very close to the beaches and some of the rough surf and things like that. So already feeling the impacts for coastal portions of North Carolina, and unfortunately that's more than likely just going to worsen and continue as we head into Wednesday and into Thursday, especially for those folks here, Bobby.
That's when it's coming by this area right there. That's absolutely right. Now, I did want to pull out here and just show everybody a big picture what we're going to talk about tonight. Obviously, you see Hurricane Erin right here, east of Florida, doing the curve, going up north of Bermuda. We're also going to focus on this little area down here in the central Atlantic. There is not much to it, to be honest with you, but it does have a 60% chance of developing, and that is not here, but it's as it's moving out to the northwest and then turning to the north, and that is the hope. That is the forecast right now, or at least that's what it looks like will happen. And then we've got this wave that's over here. It's out in the far east. If we could drop that super, I don't know if we can, but this is the actually this one has a name on it. It's Invest 99L. It's this one right here. So it's a wave that came off of Africa. It's sitting here, and it's going to move off towards the west. This has a 30% chance of developing, so that one's going to be interesting. So let's start with this. So I tracked it, Ross, at 650 miles from us, but Erin is about 530 miles from you, and you guys are seeing the surf over there.
Yeah, that's continued to increase throughout the day today. Yesterday, we had about 3 to 4 foot surf. Today, closer to about 4 to 5. Tomorrow, though, is really the peak of what we're expecting here locally, up in Jacksonville and on the First Coast. We could see breakers anywhere from about 8 to 10 feet, perhaps 11 feet in some locations. So a larger surf. The rip current concerns were certainly a big deal today. That's going to continue tomorrow as well. And our overall just wind flow is going to change just a little bit tomorrow, which could also, bode to why we're seeing, some of the worst conditions, especially with the rip currents. More of a north-northeast wind. Most of today it was out of the east-northeast or just northeast. So a little bit more parallel to the shore itself. But I do think, just a kind of a side note with regards to the storm, Bobby, you look on the western side of it, seems to be interacting with a little bit of some wind shear coming up out of the southwest of the storm, moving 500 miles to hour east. So the storm itself not looking nearly as symmetrical as it did, certainly over the weekend and even, yesterday as well. So the northern, eastern sides of the storm, that's where all the thunderstorm activity and convection is happening. But the western side of it, really not a whole lot happening there, at least at some points throughout the day today.
Yeah, and you're right. It is sheer. It is also some dry air. The core still looks pretty good. And that's usually the case, right? The core usually can hold on, at least there's not too much shear. But dry air starts wrapping around. Sometimes dry air can really get into the core, but you can see now we're just looking at a 3D view of it, how the right side of that, the east side of that, has really all of the convection that's left over. And in fact, pretty cool view. You can spin this around a little bit and show you Florida off in the distance. Some of those rain bands are actually pretty decent on the south side and the east side, but because of the westerly or west-southwesterly shear, most of the weather with it is staying offshore. So we've got a northeast flow, and it's picked up a few low-level showers for the east coast of Florida. In fact, some of them even made their way over here to Tampa, but that's what you're seeing there in Jacksonville coming in off the Atlantic. But that's, that's nothing. That's just a northeast wind with just a little bit of moisture. Here is a look, though, at that water vapor loop. And, Ross, this is what you're talking about with the dry air. You can see really kind of coming in from the north,
yes,
wrapping around there on the west side.
And this is absolutely what we expected to occur today, right? We talked about it the last couple of days, that drier air on the western and northern side, that was going to wrap around. So a decent amount of subsidence occurring here, that sinking, drying, or drier air across much of Florida. And, yeah, we've seen some shallow coastal showers especially. They kind of linger around the coast through, let's say, mid-morning, and then by the afternoon, a little bit more of that onshore northeast flow begins to kick in, and now spreading further to the west towards the Gulf Coast, much closer to you guys in Tampa, Bobby. So, and we still have a few of those isolated showers offshore, but again, very shallow. Most of them are even dissipating before they even reach our coastline. So with regards to at least the rain chances, they've been pretty minimal for most of us, at least around the Jacksonville area today, and that's going to continue through Wednesday and Thursday locally here as well.
Yeah, and when you have a storm out here, you have rising air over the storm, and then on the outsides of the storm, that air goes up, and then on the outside, it sinks. That's where Florida is right now. So we're kind of a little bit of a mix. We're hot, we're humid, we have moisture down at the surface, we have dry air up above us. So if something does get going, it's going to be a pretty good-looking thunderstorm. And then we have a hurricane. We have a tropical system sitting right next to it. So you can see those showers there on the eastern side of Florida. And then watch what happens right here along the spine. We try and pop up some showers and storms, and that kind of makes the ones out over the Atlantic fall apart. So we're doing this seesaw when you heat up each afternoon. The bottom line is, that's what we see as meteorologists. But you're like, well, it rained this morning. It might rain this afternoon. That's kind of what it looks like, a little unsettled. Now, you talked about shear, Russ. Here's the shear map as well, and I think, yeah, you can see it now. This is tomorrow, and you can see this is wind shear coming in right now. That's pretty much what we're seeing right now as well. And then we'll go out to tomorrow night into Thursday. That's early Thursday. And look what's happening up here. That is the big one. And so Ross is already dealing with it now. Looks like it's going to run into more.
Yeah, definitely by the time it reaches the mid-Atlantic, New England states, this thing's going to get pulled to the northeast much quicker. And I think you'll notice that in the cone track, right? The actual timing of it. The storm's going to move much quicker or much more rapidly to the northeast as it gets kind of picked up by that upper level flow, begins to get torn apart by the shear. So really by, let's say, Friday, as it stays just to the south of or southeast of Cape Cod and Nova Scotia. Then after that, it's pretty much a done deal for Erin, at least by the looks of the forecast models and things of that
Yeah,
nature.
yeah, you're right. Done deal is absolutely right. It'll just not only head out to sea, but it gets sheared apart, too. It's going to have a real long line of clouds heading out to the east side of it. And, and I'll stop this here. This goes out through Sunday, but let me run this out into the middle of next week. That's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Okay, that is a ton of shear. Now, if you're watching from Carolina and Virginia, that's fantastic for tropical. That would tear apart anything coming at you as far as tropics are concerned. But we're down here in the south, and watch what happens for us. I mean, that's getting better, right? That's more wind shear in the mid and upper levels of the atmosphere there along the Carolina coastline. And what this suggests is that storms that are coming in the Atlantic would try to recurve a little bit. And try and get picked up, it's kind of like this is the trough right here, right? So anything coming out here would kind of see it and come up and go out like that. So the deeper this gets here, the better we are protected from hurricanes generally. Even if something tried to come in there, it's going to get sheared apart by all that wind shear right there. I know I'm drawing all over the place here, but that's just looking ahead. That's about a week and two days out from where we are right now. So to me, that's kind of a good sign, although it can pull in some systems. Now, yesterday we had Turks and Caicos with tropical storm warnings. The southern Bahamas, up towards the central Bahamas, had a tropical storm watch. All of those have been dropped. Now what we have are tropical storm warnings for the coastal Carolina area. We're talking from Jacksonville, basically the Pender-Onslow County line there in southeast North Carolina, all the way up to just about Elizabeth City for the warning. So you want to go explain what that means for us for a tropical storm warning.
Well, yeah, that just means they can experience or potentially experience tropical storm force winds within, the next 12 to 24 hours? Bobby, and you can, correct me if I'm wrong there.
A warning usually with 36 hours now. They changed it. It used to be later, but now it's 36 hours.
Okay. And then beyond that would be the tropical storm watch. I think perhaps the more interesting thing, at least for me, is the storm surge warning. And I don't know if you have that in line with the graphics or not, but that the National Hurricane Center did put a storm surge warning in effect for that same area of the Outer Banks that's currently in the tropical storm warning. They're potentially, looking at 1 to 2 feet of storm surge. And now, of course, for you guys in Tampa, that doesn't sound like a lot, especially when you guys were looking at the historic storm surge that you experienced last year with Helene or Milton, whichever it was. You guys saw 8 to 10 feet of storm surge. 1 to 2 might not sound like a lot, but they've already experienced some coastal flooding there. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how things maneuver and come to fruition over the next couple of days to see how much water they actually, have inundate some of those locations up there.
So it's really tough to see here. But you're right, Ross. Let me show you this now. That is the storm surge warning that you see in pink. And the reason why I say it's tough to see because see how thin the Outer Banks are? So they have that storm surge warning. I think it's about 2 to 3 feet. And so what you're talking about is crashing waves along that Outer Banks, along those areas, plus a high tide that's 2 to 3 feet above normal. That is not as a big. Now, if we had a 2 to 3 foot surge here in Tampa, that's going to cause more of a problem than a 2 to 3 foot surge up there. But when you combine it with the waves, you're really going to start to cause a lot of problems. There's going to be a ton of beach erosion up there. I don't see the watches any further to the north. It looked like the main push of the water is going to be there along just the Outer Banks. So you can see it right there.
And the beneficial thing, right, is although they are going to see some rain and storms, they'll see some outer bands, but they're not expecting several inches, a half foot of rain like we can sometimes see when storms move on shore, right? So then you have the fresh water flooding on top of the storm surge itself. So at least, that might be the silver lining in this is that they're at least not doing a double whammy, so to speak.
Yeah, right, exactly. Those warnings will continue. Now, they'll come down as the surge comes down, which will really be Thursday night into Friday morning. That's as the storm's really starting to pull away, and it's creating more distance from its closest that it will be. I guess we could say apogee. Isn't that the closest now since we're doing this? Perigee and apogee. All right, let's talk the wind field. So yesterday we measured it. We'll do it again. Let's do it again. I think we measured it was 420 or so, just including all of the, it's about 425, okay. Now let's watch as it gets up towards the Outer Banks. This is Thursday morning. We'll measure this again. Went from 420 to 520. So that's about what the forecast was for tomorrow. But the key in this graphic, Ross, is that red area in the middle. That's where the winds of hurricane force, 74 or higher. At this case, probably in that northeast quadrant there is probably going to be about 110 or so. That's the forecast from the Hurricane Center. All of that stays offshore, okay? In fact, that would stay, according to this, that would stay over 145 miles, offshore of Cape Hatteras. So you're right, it's not a windstorm. And if you look at this, the sustained winds of 40 miles per hour are just barely clipping that area. So that's why I think, it's more like 25 to 35, especially for like Wilmington, Morehead City, Atlantic Beach, Bath, those areas, New Bern, maybe a little less than that, obviously. But then you get down the Outer Banks and Ocracoke, then you're talking 30, 35 to 40, 45 mile per hour winds sustained. And gusts will be in the 50s to almost near 60 at times. But that's it. I mean, this is 58 mile per hour, the orange. When you get a severe thunderstorm warning in the summertime, sometimes that's because of wind. And the criteria for that is 58 mile per hour winds or higher. So generally 60 mile per hour winds. All right. We get those every now and then here. That's what the orange means in the center there. So those sustained 60 mile per hour winds won't even be near the shore. So it's not a whole lot of wind. It's not a whole lot of rain, as Ross was telling you. It's just more of that coastal pounding that they're going to get with the higher than normal tides and the larger surf. And then you notice it actually does stay just off the northeast coast. You were talking about them earlier, Ross. Martha's Vineyard just to the north of it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, does the track wobble or wiggle a little bit to the west or northwest? By the time we get to Thursday and Friday, does that gale force wind radii field, does it sneak a little bit further northward up towards Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket, Cape Cod in general? I think that'll be an interesting thing, but they're still going to have gusty winds, I would suspect, fairly similarly to much of the Outer Banks, sustained upwards of about 25 to 35. And, of course, we'll see if, they get wind gusts higher than 40 or 50. I know I've been up to Boston a few times, love the area, and the winds can sometimes be deceiving. You wouldn't think it's nearly as windy as it can get up there sometimes. But even on, nice sunny days, the winds up there can still gust 40 to 50 at times. So, it'll be kind of interesting to see how the forecast pans out for them. But for the time being, and based off of this, it keeps them out of that tropical storm force wind field.
I would imagine anything out of the east coming across the ocean, there's nothing to slow it down, right? And that's where Boston's going to get a lot of their wind.
Yeah.
The yellow here, this is sustained winds of about 40 miles per hour or a little bit higher. So that means a constant, steady wind, and that's tougher to do. So, you could get 30s and 40s out here down in Nantucket, but they're not going to be sustained. You might get 25 to 30 sustained and then, some higher gusts. But it looks like the majority of this is going to stay offshore, and then it starts to pull away as we go through. That's Friday night at 8 o'clock. And, in fact, at the same time, let me back this up just a little bit, because Bermuda is right where the M is in Bermuda. And even them, they have a tropical storm watch, but that's saying that we might get tropical storm force winds, not necessarily that we're expecting it, right? There's a possibility there. So I think they're probably going to end up doing all right as well, except they are going to get some rain out of it. They are going to get some gusts because they're going to be on that dirty side with the shear blowing all those storms back over in their direction. Again, back to my favorite map from the Hurricane Center. Ross, you want to walk us through this one? This is the tropical storm most likely arrival times. They have an earliest arrival and they have a most likely one.
Yeah.
This is the most likely.
Well, and I also just want to add, I think this also displays perhaps the best possible track that Erin could have taken in between Bermuda and the eastern United States. So for Bermuda specifically, right about Thursday evening at this time, perhaps seeing those tropical storm force winds, but still a low chance. You saw it in the wind radii field. Similar story here, only looking at about a 10 to 20% chance. Similarly for the North Carolina coastline, perhaps a little bit higher. We're talking closer to 30 to 35, perhaps even a 40% chance to see those tropical storm force winds shortly after sunset tomorrow evening. So if you do have friends or family up there along the North Carolina coastline, try to get anything that you need to tie down or bring inside. Get it done tonight before you pack up for the evening, go to bed, and then tomorrow morning you wake up and head to work and things of that nature. By 10 p.m. tomorrow night, could be getting a little bit gusty out there. And similarly, further up the coast, you go up towards Ocean City, Maryland, Delaware, New York even, then you're looking throughout the day on Thursday, still very low chance, only looking at about 10, maybe 15% chance to see tropical storm force winds. So the key there is it going to be breezy, windy at times? Yes, but not to the point that you're more than likely experiencing those sustained 40-mile-per-hour winds, right, Bobby?
Yeah, and it's just going to be some gusts, and that's the good news. All of this moving offshore. The winds are driving some waves, and we're going to talk about that coming up in a little bit, but that's what's all the coastal flood issues. I'm actually looking at a live camera right now of Avon Pier, North Carolina. There's not much going on there. It's pretty empty. They evacuated tourists yesterday. The locals were leaving today that were going to leave, and I know that area, and I know there will not be a lot of tourists, a lot of locals that will leave for that, because most of that area is high ground, especially when you go on the other side of Highway 12 in those areas. But there are spots there along the Outer Banks that are not inhabitable because you're going to have overwash at times. And so those spots obviously don't have much of a population in it anyways. But let's move out to the waves right now. So what were you saying today over there? It was like 4 to 5 foot or so first thing in the morning?
Yeah, early this morning it was about 4 feet, and then by sunset this evening we were looking closer to about 5 feet. But that didn't deter people, from getting in the water. We had a lot of surfers out there, so of course we're trying to get people to heed the warnings and caution them. If you're not a good swimmer, please don't get in the water. And really, we're just telling everyone it's not safe to be out there. But some of the diehard surfers were still out there trying to ride some big waves, and of course we've already heard from some folks. They're expecting to still go out tomorrow and Thursday, despite the rip current concerns and high surf advisories and warnings that are in place. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. As a surfer, usually the lifeguards are pretty good, especially Wrightsville Beach is where I spend all my time, and Carolina Beach, those areas, and they let the surfers go. I mean, you're literally strapped to a flotation device, right, with your surfboard. But what happens is those waves eventually get so big, it's tough to paddle out. They're breaking so far out, and they're one right after the other, and right now it's fairly what we would call clean. There's not a whole lot of wind chopping things up, but that's going to change. Things are going to get choppy, especially late tomorrow and into Thursday. Real quick, we're running out of time here. I want to get to those other systems. There's a look at it Wednesday at 10 o'clock. You can see that's when it's really peaking. So Wednesday night, Wednesday afternoon, tomorrow night, and Thursday morning. Look at the Outer Banks by Thursday at lunchtime. 20 to 25-foot waves. It is going to be big. It will be windy at that time. That's when we'll have winds in the 30s. But then notice Friday at 8 p.m. is already coming down. It's really packing down as we get into that. Okay, so Friday things get better. Let's talk about these two waves we were talking about. So what I did here, Ross, was number one, we've got our mid-Atlantic wave in this area here. Not very organized at all. This is the wave that just came off of Africa. That's 99L. So we were running models on 99L. And you can see west-southwest. That's getting pretty far to the south. So that's and a lot of the models lose it, right? It just kind of washes out here. A couple of the models do get it over towards the Caribbean islands, but not many at all, to be honest with you. All right, great news with that one, okay? The GFS model is running the ensembles on it. Here you go. You see a bunch in here, you don't see a bunch out here. And what you do see is a spread, which means it's losing it, okay? Let's watch the European model. There's North Carolina. Obviously, you can see where Hurricane Erin is. This is our mid-Atlantic wave right in here. This is 99L, and this is tomorrow night, okay? Now, let's go out to Friday.
This is Friday night at 7 p.m. There is our mid-Atlantic wave, and I know it's tough to see, but Puerto Rico's right there. St. Martin's right there. Here are the island chains. And you can see it's north of there, and look at all these circles that are going around Hurricane Erin, right? That shows you that it's strong, has a deep low pressure. There's not even a closed low here. So does this, I mean, it has a 60% chance of developing from the Hurricane Center, but is it going to do it? It has a chance to do it, I think, Friday night into Saturday and Sunday as it's moving northward up here. All right, it's going to follow Erin up and out. 99's not. 99 came over here. It's all the way over here. Watch these as we go through Saturday into Sunday night and Monday. This is Monday morning. There is whatever the mid-Atlantic one is. There is the wave. This whole green area really is 99L. Again, you can see how we've got all these circles up here. Ross, I don't see anything. Do you see much development here?
No, I mean, I agree with you with the mid-Atlantic wave. It looks like after it moves north of Puerto Rico and the Leeward Islands and starts to move into the North Atlantic, could see a little bit of some development there. But it still looks like that, that Bermuda high stays off to the east. That corridor remains open for it to just pretty much follow in Erin's path, almost like Erin's the fullback. And this mid-Atlantic wave is kind of like that elusive running back just kind of sliding up in behind. We've also got that big trough in that front dipping across the eastern seaboard. Looks like that upper level flow is going to pick it up, take it off to the northeast. And then for 99L, yeah, I pretty much agree with you. It stays pretty disorganized the whole way, across towards South America. So might become interesting once it reaches the Western Caribbean, but that's still, 10 days out even.
Yeah, so bottom line, right now it's not a worry. And in fact, Ross, we know the next week we're good, right? All right, guys.